Every year, there's one move at the draft that makes you go, what? Today, we're going to look at possibilities on Freaky Friday. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Back, friends and neighbors. Today, we are brought to you by FanDuel, where you can make every single moment more. Right now, new customers are getting $200 back for winning a $5 bet. That's $200 back to your account in bonus bets for winning just a $5 bet. Check it out at FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Welcome in. It is the wrap-up show of another week, one that's been very interesting, and we are squarely focused on the draft. We're going to go through a couple of fun scenarios today. Hope that you guys will be with us. Lots to cover. He's Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner here on Substack, as well as, obviously, the Locked On show that we're always on. Check him out at Chiefs Corner. You can get all the information that Chris is putting out way consistently. I am deep in the draft metrics, as well as the film grades. Me and my team over at rogueapc.com. You can get the athletic matrix right now, and you'll get an update as soon as we get all the pro day information in. Then the draft guide comes out. It's all with a discount code at LOC at rogueapc.com, and you can get even more at NFL33.com for all your team building needs and RGR football. Welcome back in. It's Locked On Sports. Today is the 24/7 feed that you need to check out. Everybody on Locked On is 5 days a week. You can get us there, starting here on YouTube, where we would ask you to like this video and sub to the channel and hit the bell so you get the next emphasis of it, and then come back. Get on Spotify, get on Apple, get on any audio platform you like, because we're free and available on all of them all the time, 5 days a week plus. And you everydayers already know that, but you can also get some more information on the text line for our insider text line at 816-357-8781. Freaky Friday. We're just starting this. It feels fun. It may get old saying that, but I'm excited about it because we have a couple of trade scenarios for this upcoming draft. We're going to do regular mock draft Monday on Monday. Don't miss it. The show will post Sunday night. But today we're going to surprise each other. I haven't seen Chris's and he hasn't seen mine. So we're going to see how and what to lengths we went to make something dramatic happen for the Kansas City Chiefs. And we're starting right now with Mr. Clark's surprise trade up or out.
Oh, I traded up, and you're not going to like what I gave up for it, but let's...
Row.
Yeah, here we go. Let's just take a look.
Good. You went to 8?
I went to 8.
Oh, well. Oh.
Told you were going to like it.
I am not going to like this. I can tell you that right now. So
That's
talk
fine.
to me, Goose. What did you do?
Well, look back at what the Chiefs gave up to go up to get Patrick Mahomes. They gave up a first-round pick in 2 consecutive years and a third-round pick in the next year. I did something similar. I gave up a first-round pick next year on top of this year's first round and a fourth-rounder. So not quite as much. It is a lot, I grant you.
Oh, my.
But I did it for a specific purpose.
Okay. 2 number ones plus a fourth in order to go from 32 to 8. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. What is your purpose?
Look at who's sitting there at number 5.
Yeah, I was putting that together. Folks, if you're not on the YouTube version, go watch the channel right now, because in a second it'll become clear. But right now, I can't argue that the move is terrible. Good Lord,
You want
it's
to?
full of... I don't.
You want to?
I want to. Yes, giving up 2 1s is not anything that I ever want to do. Brett Veach and I are in the same cab, going over the same cliff on that one. But when it falls the way that your scenario has fallen, I can get it. So let me also correct you. You gave up every other pick in this draft except for the second and third rounder. Yeah.
No. I just did a 3-round. We weren't going to do a full mock, and we're just talking, so I just did 3 rounds.
Okay.
So no, I still have all the picks from the rest of the year, or for the rest of 2023 and all of 2024, other than the first rounder and the fourth rounder next year. So we still have 2/3 in 2024.
Okay. 2/3
and a second.
2024 and a second. You can trade up, do whatever you want with that. Okay. So you gave up this number 1 and next year's number 1 to be in position at 8 to select the best player available. What did you expect to happen in these top 7 picks, and did it happen before we reveal this? And then the next segment, folks, we're going to break it down.
Yeah, it happened. I was expecting that you're going to have a run of quarterbacks, which is exactly what you have. You have 4 going in the top 6. and you have 3 wide receivers going in the top 7. So from 4 to 7, you have 3 wide receivers. So this worked out exactly how I would have wanted it to. And Kansas City is sitting there with exactly what I was hoping that they could possibly get. To me, say what you want. I don't really care, because to me, this is the pick that if they could make it work, would set them up for long-term success with Mahomes, because it takes care of him.
Okay. Caleb Williams goes 1. Jaden Daniels comes off 2nd. Then it's Drake May to the Patriots, something that was very, very evident to be a possibility at the Pro Day today. So that's important. Malik Neighbors comes off a wide receiver to Cardinals at 4. Then Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that's probably flipped in all likelihood, but that doesn't matter because the Chargers get an elite wide receiver prospect. Then the New York Giants come back with J.J. McCarthy. I think that should be Michael Penix myself, but that's me. And then Roma Dunze to the Titans. So now they have not only my favorite wide receiver in the draft in Tennessee, but they have L'Jarius Sneed to play across from him. So now I'm kind of pissed. Mm-hmm. But you're on the clock at 8. And for those not watching on YouTube, tell us who's the number 1 pick available and the guy that you were aiming for all along.
Joe Alt, tackle, Notre Dame.
Boom. Wow.
You get a guy that is, his dad played for the Chiefs, left tackle for years. And Joe Alt, he has very few holes in his game. To me, he is a franchise left tackle. He is a guy that could possibly be an all-pro over the next couple of seasons. And to me, he's a guy that you can plug in for 10 years, and he's going to protect Mahomes' backside. And that's exactly what you need. And you look at this, and I understand giving up a first is a lot, but Kansas City is never going to be picking any higher than probably around 25 to 26 with Mahomes here, as long as he stays healthy. So if you want a good talent, you go get it. And the thing that really sets this apart for me is the simple fact that you go look at what left tackles are making. It's 25, 28, $30 million or close, way up there in the salary cap. To me, this is worth it.
Okay. Joe Alt, son of John Alt, legacy in Kansas City. Chris has us in position to select him right now. Do that, and we're going to break down about the whys and hows of this trade on the backside of this here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Say goodbye to every last one of your busted brackets, because we have the answer for you. FanDuel is going to help you with that, and they let you bet every single game in this tourney. Every single one, down to that championship game that our Jayhawks ought to be in, but they're not. That's all right. Whether you're betting on a big upset or the number 1 seed, it's time to go dancing with America's number 1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers are getting $200 back for winning a $5 bet. Doesn't mean it has to be anything outlandish. You could take the 1 seed in the Sweet 16 and get that paid off and get $200 back to your account. That's $200 for point spreads, money lines, and even who's going to win the big dance and the championship. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on any college hoops right now until they cut down the nets. Over at FanDuel.com, check it out. Okay. I see your point, and I will raise you a Locked On Sports Today feed. How's that? We can put this out and we can see what everybody has to say on it. Folks, you can see Locked On shows back to back to back 24/7 on Amazon, Fire, and here on YouTube.
Here's the other thing I want to say. You only make this move on draft day. You don't make this move beforehand because you don't have a clue who's going to be there. To me, this is a move that you use to go get 1 or 2 positions. You either get tackle or you get wide receiver. I'm not – if a Dunze or not a Dunze, if somehow Neighbors or Marvin Harrison fell and Alt was already gone, obviously, at that point, then maybe you make that move there too. To me, those are the 2 premium positions, like we've talked about. To me, those are the 2 premium positions on offense outside of QB that you consider doing it for, because 1, you're never going to get that talent where you're picking, generally speaking, and 2, it's going to save you a ton of money having that type of player there as opposed to having to try to go out and get a veteran to do it.
Yep, and that's fair. And like you said, the longevity. Joe Alt is a 6'8" former tight end. He's not as fleet of foot as Eric Fisher was, but he's more athletic than the average left tackle. Let's be real. Is he a total dancing bear? No, there are guys that have better feet, but they don't have the upper body strength. He is the whole package. He will move guys in the run game. He is probably tackle number one when it's all said and done, and that fits this profile.
21 years old.
Yeah. So his
that matters too.
After his 5th year, he'll be 26. So you could even contend that after a 5th year option, if you're really, really interested and you can get everything else worked out, you might be able to extend him and get him to 30 while playing for Kansas City.
Under one new contract, yeah.
Yeah, that's impressive. Okay. So you sold me on making the move. The pluses are you get a franchise level player. You do give up your first rounder next year, but if you have the left tackle, you're in pretty good shape. You have Chris Jones for a couple of seasons. You have your primary edge rusher or pass rusher there. Yes, you have to supplement edges. Yes, you have to continue to develop the defensive backfield. But of the 4 pillars of football, plus maybe the newest one, the wide receivers, you feel like you're making progress. So I can get down with that. You sold me. There is a bit of an emotional thing with it being Alt's kid.
Right.
What's the reason not to do this other than you're selling your future number one?
I mean, that's basically what it would come down to for me. I mean, the only reason that you wouldn't want to do this is because you're selling your future. To me, though, getting a situation where you have your left tackle set for the next several years, you have your offensive line set for this season more than likely, and you're probably set for the next couple of seasons when you start looking at some of the other players on the offensive line. Right tackle, I think, is going to be a lot better this year than he was last year. But to me, this gives an offensive line, and I think you have bookends at this point that can protect, Patrick, and that's exactly what he needs. And yeah, he's still going to run around. He's still going to be looking like he's, running around like a chicken with his head cut off at times because that's how he plays. It's not necessarily, sometimes it's not even the protection. Patrick can run into it, and he has done that. But in this case, I think that this sets him up in a fantastic position going forward. So the only reason not to do this move is if you do not feel like he is your potential franchise guy for the next 10 years. If you think he can be, then I think you make the move.
And if there's any synergy to making a move like this where you're giving up multiple ones, that it's not a quarterback, it's for the guy that will protect him the most. And that I can get down with. I had a similar concept with mine, folks. Scenario number 2 still involves a trade. We're going to flip over here and take a look at my concept. And I did not go up to 8. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Was not even on my radar to trade into the top 10. I am not giving up.
I told you Freaky Friday. That's on me.
Yeah,
so
you called it. Okay. So what you can see here in my scenario, Caleb still goes number 1. Drake May still goes number 2. JJ McCarthy comes off at 3. Adunze goes to the Cardinals. Neighbors to the Chargers. Jaden Daniels to New York. And Joel does go 7th, a pick ahead of your scenario, to the Titans. Dallas Turner ends up going to the Falcons in that spot that you just used. And I also traded up.
Yeah, I'm also curious, does Joel go to 5 to the Chargers? Because I've heard some rumblings about that. And this could be in my scenario, you wouldn't make that move then. Right.
It could be, especially with Harbaugh trying to emphasize and bring Michigan football style, hard-nosed running back to the NFL. I did something similar, but I was not in any way, shape, or form giving up my number 1 next year. Again, me and Brett Veach rode the same cab to the combine here today. But what I did do is I gave up next year's 2. So in 2025, knowing that there's 2 third-round picks, one of which should be in the top half of the 3rd round, I gave up Chiefs number 2 to get to 16 with the Seattle Seahawks. I think this is a pick that is right with, again, a quarterback selection. Might even be the local guy, Penix. You never know. But if it's not that, then I think it's likely the guy that I was hoping for. And what we have to see is whether he's still available or not. So in the end, I gave up 4th round. I'm sorry, 2nd round next year, as well as a pick swap here in like the 6th. So what we end up with is Brock Bowers. Yeah, not too terrible. As we went through, so now I'm sitting at 16. Marvin Harrison goes 9 to the Bears. Olu Fashanu, the number 2 tackle, goes to the Jets at 10. Chalise Fuaga, who I actually have as a low 1st round grade, goes off to the Vikings at 11. Jared Verse, the edge rusher, 12 to the Broncos. Quinton Mitchell, a lot of people's CB1 goes to the Raiders, and Terrion Arnold, CB2, goes to the Saints. Then J.C. Latham, power right tackle / right guard, goes to the Colts just ahead of Kansas City, and we are on the clock. Gives us a couple of options. I'm comfortable with what they are, and I still feel that this trade was worth it. Brock Bowers is there. Byron Murphy, the DT1 on my board, is still there. Newton is still there. But so is my tackle 4, Troy Fautanu. Fautanu. The Huskies left tackle, who doesn't like to wear knee pads, looks like a wide receiver because he rolls his pants up above his knees, is not scared because he does not get on the ground. Athlete, one of the best testing guys in here, 34.5-inch arms, a quarter-inch longer than Joe Alt's, but he's a little bit undersized.
How long?
Just under
Sorry?
6'3". 34.5. Joe Alt is 34.25. So in terms of reach, in terms of playing in this offense, keeping edge rushers like Max Crosby at bay, very similar in terms of their punch power and their punch length.
Yep.
Ranked 13th here on this board. We're picking at 16. I see that as good value. And despite having other players available, Marius Mims, I think, is an interesting right tackle. He's much more of a risk. He's somebody that I think the Chiefs might actually have a chance at in the 20s. Brian Wilson is here. Adonai Mitchell is here. So there are those picks that we talk about late half, but it really comes down to 3 selections for me. Brock Bowers at tight
Brian
end.
Who?
Brian, what did it say? Thomas? I hope.
I thought you said Wilson. That's why I was confused.
Oh, sorry. So it's not Brian
Thomas.
Wilson. He's a great guitar player, but Brian Thomas from LSU.
I think you said Brian Wilson because Peyton Wilson was right above Brian Thomas. So.
Could be. So this comes down to 3 things. Brock Bowers, the tight end, who is elite. Byron Murphy, who is an undersized, but you hate to say Aaron Donald, but an undersized, penetrating D tackle that could play next to Chris Jones and be pretty productive. And then you have my guy that I'm leaning towards trying to get to in Troy Fautanu to do the same job as we talked about. What would you do?
Probably go with the tackle from Washington, even though I want to kick myself for it.
Yeah, okay. That's what I would do too.
I'll be honest, Brock Bowers sitting there at 16, I don't see any possible way that's going to happen during draft day. But if you have that trade already done and you're at 16, man, that'd be really hard to pass up. Fautanu, I get it. That's the direction that I would hope that they would go. But man, Travis Kelce and Brock Bowers on the same offense and him being able to teach Bowers the ropes at tight end for the next couple of seasons while he's Yeah. Okay. I'm taking Fautanu. When we get back, we're going to break that down as well as the other options here on the Locked On Podcast Network. So we've had some fun. We both made the choice to trade up in the draft in order to secure protection for Patrick Mahomes. I don't think there's any wrong answer there. You have a good point about Bowers, and I will say this. I actually do think that there's a possibility at 16 he may be available. I'm hearing more and more that people are having a harder time justifying against all the quarterback, tackle, and wide receiver talent on taking him over them, especially with the tightrope surgery. I can understand that concern. I don't have access to the medicals, but that makes a little bit of sense to me. So this might even be a scenario that later, maybe they could go up and get him, the heir apparent. They potentially could, and I would still love it. But at the same time, for me, oh man, seriously, how can it break any better for you?
I know, right?
look at him sitting there, just staring us in the face.
One of my favorite wide receivers in this draft because he can do anything, and he's a smaller version of Rashee Rice and Sammy Watkins and Jalen Polk, in my opinion. He is rising up boards lately, as we're hearing from the media anyways. They're hearing more and more rumor about him, but yeah, that's kind of a nice thing right there, as is Jalen McMillan. It sets us up that in the second round, the Chiefs would have a couple of options here. Tez Walker is more of a vertical threat than an all-around threat. But then we come back with Byron Murphy, who is available to us in the first round. His partner's still here. You want to eat up space and blockers? Go take Devondre Sweat and put him on this defensive line next to Chris Jones.
That'd be sick. That would be absolutely sick to have him on this roster. And to me, I think that you still look at going with one of the wide receivers. I don't think that you go a different direction. The only way you wouldn't go wide receiver with your scenario is if you would have gone Bowers at one at their first.
Fair enough.
If you go Bowers, then I don't think you go wide receiver because it falls down to the wayside. But man, with the way your draft fell, you would have your new left tackle and you would have a new shiny wide receiver to throw out there with him, and you can still go and maybe use your ammo if you feel like there's a guy that you want on your interior, or you feel like another edge pass rusher falls in the third round that you don't think should be. I mean, there's ways to move up.
And I got to tell you that there's been a lot of Joe Collins sightings around America this week, as my watch is telling me what I need to know.
and
unfortunately, I couldn't shut that off very well.
Yeah, Ryan's going to go take care of that. Hey, it's Freaky Friday. You never know what's going to happen.
You never know. Joe Collins has been looking at a lot of fringe day 2 guys, low 3rd, 4th round, maybe even high 5th round guys to fill that defensive line spot. So there's a lot going on there. I will say this too, at 64 in this scenario, I might trade back out of it down a little bit. I do think if you're looking for a corner that you feel you can bring in and then develop into the next L'Jarius need, Max Melton is probably my guy here, available at 80.
Fair enough. There's lots of different ways that this draft can go. We talk about trading up. The reality is it's probably not a great scenario that they're going to trade up. I don't know that there are going to be many teams that are going to want to trade up with them, especially if you think about it. I don't think at this point you're going to get anybody in the AFC unless you're going to overpay that's going to be willing to trade up or trade back with you in the first round. Yeah. And there's probably some NFC teams as well that will not be willing to trade with you. The Eagles, the 49ers, those types of teams. So I think you're in a situation where trading up in the first round is going to be very difficult unless you can find an NFC team that's just desperate to get more picks or really wanting more picks. So something to watch there. But trading back at 32 makes a lot of sense. If somebody wants to come up and if a quarterback fell that they didn't expect, they can go get the 5th-year option. There's lots of different people in that scenario that you can go with.
Now, there are some room in between as well. In my research, I wasn't able to trade up with the Vikings at 11. They're rumored to be trying to move out of that pick and move up themselves for a quarterback, so that makes a lot of sense. Who else? I was hoping the Saints have a lot of work to do there, so I wasn't able to do it today, but that is another viable option. I think in reality for the Chiefs, it's about waiting till about this 16 to 18 range, right after the Jags and Bengals pick, that maybe you're trying to talk to the Rams. And that's maybe the move up scenario that is more of a realistic Brett Veach kind of move that we could see happen.
Well, the one thing that we do know about Brett Veach is if he loves somebody, he's going to go get him. And the one thing I will say is if they love Joe Alt and they have been doing research on Joe Alt and they want Joe Alt, I'm not going to be surprised if they go try to find a way to get it done, because whether or not you like the move or whether or not people like the move, it's setting them up to have Patrick Mahomes the left side of the line taken care of for the next 5 years at least, and more than likely 10. Kid looks like he could play for a very long time in the NFL and probably be at least a Pro Bowler, if not an All-Pro.
Yeah. I mean, and that's job number one. Keep Mahomes vertical as long as you can keep Mahomes vertical. And that plays into the long-term goal of this franchise, and I think that's perfectly viable.
And if you keep him vertical, like you're talking about, you're not only helping in you're helping in the pass sense too, because if you keep him vertical longer, if he can stay in the pocket longer, you can have a little bit lesser wide receiver. So it kind of works out that way. When you give them more time to go get open, it can happen a little bit easier. But obviously, you still want to invest at that position. And I think the Chiefs would, regardless if they were to go get their left tackle of the future. But so many different things in this draft. And this draft is actually almost tailor-made for the Chiefs. Look at all the offensive line talent. Look at all the wide receiver talent. And you've still got some very good tight ends in this draft too. offensively, this is a great situation for the Chiefs. And I would also venture to say that there's probably some interior guys that they may be interested in maybe not as early as, day 2, but with the injuries that happened with Tooney and the questions with Trey Smith in the future, I think that you could see a scenario where they would maybe, if somebody's dropped that they didn't expect to be there, take a offensive guard in the second round. It may not be a sexy pick, but it's all about trying to protect Mahomes.
Yeah, it makes sense. So we gave you 2 scenarios today, Freaky Friday. We're going to give you a mock draft that's a little bit more realistic next Monday for Mock Draft Monday. But what did you prefer? Would you rather see the Chiefs go all in and send their first from next year in order to get to the top 10 and possibly get alt? Or would you rather be a little more conservative and trade up, not giving up next year's one? I'd like to know in the comments. Leave your thoughts below.
I think we need to still plan on doing a trade for Monday. Not obviously what we did today, but I think we ought to try moving up a little bit and see what we can get, because we keep getting the same people available at 32. And don't get me wrong, I think Ladd McConkey would be great in this offense, but I'd like to see what they could get done at 25, 26. And I know it's all, a simulator, but I think it'd be interesting.
Agreed. So we'll plan on that for Mock Draft Monday, folks. Be with us then. Make sure you like, sub, hit the bell. If you didn't get to see this, come over to the YouTube side. If you're over on Spotify or Apple, you can see it on YouTube at Locked On Chiefs, all one word, super simple to find. If you happen to be watching this, you want to help us out, make sure you go get subbed on an audio platform as well, because we're here for you 5 days a week, every single time. Thanks for being with us today. We appreciate it. We have plenty. We hope you enjoy your weekend. We're also going to enjoy ours and get ready for Mock Draft Monday. Going to be a lot of fun. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and we will talk to you next time.